Good morning. This is Cher from Cher's Bears, and I am going to go over our pattern that you just purchased. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces, and I like to set them up according to how we sew. And this is going to be the first section, which is the head section. This is going to be the body section and the feet. And this right here is the back and the arms. So these are all the pattern pieces. Once you cut them out, prepare your fabric with interfacing on the back if you'd like. It makes it much easier to sew. I have already cut mine out, so that's for those pieces right here. That's for that one there. Yeah. And I will go over how I sewed these together. Okay, so the first piece, obviously you don't have to sew together. This is just the center of the face. Here are the 2 ears. Just go around the outside of the ears with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like this. And then the back of the head, you sew up one side, the side with the bigger notch, not the point, but the bigger notch. You sew up that side. And then this is the head sides, and you sew up right here along, oh, I am sorry. You sew up right here along this seam. And this will be where you attach the center of the face. And then this is the body. You sew along, here, let me do this side. Sew along this side of the body. It's got the bigger notch, not the point notch. And the feet, or the legs I should say. The legs, you go around along this side, and then when you go down this side, you stop between the 2 notches. That's not a seam there, that's just a thread. You stop there because that is where you are going to be stuffing your leg. And these are just the soles of the feet. And this is something custom that I'm doing. I can also do custom embroidery for you if you'd like. I can do the soles of the feet. I can do the chest patch. Anything you want, really. Just contact me and I can do it for you. And then the back of the body, get those pins out of here. The back of the body, it has this right here is for the dart. So you just sew that together first, going down both of the back sides where you marked it for the darts. And then the arms, same as the leg. You go around the whole outside, except you leave this open between the 2 notches. So this will be your stuffing hole for your arms. So after I sewed all of those together so far, this is just the beginning. I'll take them and then I'll trim them with my pinking shears and get all of the excess fabric off of all of them. Just like this. The ears. Both ears. Oops. Let's put those back over here. Side of the face we don't have to do anything with, except if you've already marked it for your eyes, where you put your eyes. The nose just goes at the very tip. But I have a template that I use, but I have it marked on the pattern piece where the eyes go. You can put them anywhere. You can actually move them down a little bit, but I have them. I'll just take a little pen and mark them where I want them. Got little holes here. All right, so that's completed. The first section of the bear is well, not completed, but it's at least trimmed. So now the middle section is just the front. This is his belly. And then his legs. Just trim, don't, you know, get as close to the seam as possible, but you don't want to cut into that seam. You don't want to have to re-sew everything. There's that one. And then this one. Cut it down both sides. Alright, that nothing has to be done on these. And then the backs, I just trim the dart, the excess off the dart. Like that. Just like that. And then the arms, oh well, the whole arm, you have to trim around this. And if you're working with a plaid fabric, and you've lined it up before you cut out your pattern pieces, and you think that it's lined up completely, I'd still take a look at it before you sew it together and kind of realign to make sure those the plaid patch, or the plaid, I'll show you what I mean, so that it matches. The lines all come together at the same place. It looks much better. Okay, so everything is trimmed. Let me get rid of this excess. And the next step is the face. So I usually fold this in half like this, and then take a little pin and mark the center. And then take this piece, which is the side pieces, and we're going to open it up, and this right here is where we're going to pin this piece to. So you take it and you get the center seam on this, not this area here. This is the neck area. We want the bigger section here, the top section. So we take it, the center piece, and pin it right to the seam, so we know exactly where the center is. And then I go up one side and just start pinning. Let me grab my pins and bring them over. Just start pinning up the side like this, and then I'll take it and I'll take the top, line it up to the top now, and then just put a pin in between the two, like here. And then I start up the other side like this. Pin, and then I go up to the top, line that one up. Hope this is all showing. Oops, I don't want that big of a pin. There we go. And then open that, or shut that, and put another pin in it. So that's how it's going to look. There's the side pieces, and then there's the center. That's going to be the face right here. So you take it to the sewing machine and sew. It's kind of hard to see. You sew along this side, around the bottom, and then up to the top on this side. Let me do that real quick. When it gets to the tip of the nose, you kind of have to push the fabric out of the way so you don't grab it and make a pucker in the nose. You just kind of push it up and out of the way. It's same thing with the pins. Sometimes it gets caught up on the presser foot, so you want to get your pins out of the way. Just sew up this around the, it's kind of like a U shape. You'll be able to see it once I pull it out. So there you go. You kind of see it that way. And then there's the sides. So again, then you take the pins out of this and go ahead and grab either your pinking shears, and if you don't have pinking shears, you can just use regular scissors and just cut some of this bulk off like this. So now it's trimmed. So then I'll go ahead and grab, oh, wrong. Right here. These are my eyes and nose, and I'll just take a seam ripper and then I don't know if you can see where my marks were that I just used the template for the eyes, but I'll poke a little hole in where I marked. Not big, but just a little hole, enough for the base of the eye to fit through. I'll show you what I mean. So here are the eyes, and I'll just kind of feel for the hole, and then you have to kind of push it through like that. Maybe I made this a little too small. No. Okay, and then just put a piece of safety. Just snip that on so that's what the eye looks like. And then I will do the other eye. Push it through. And put the safety back on. And like I said, as far, oh, see, that's how the eyes will look. And then I just open it up and just kind of eyeball where the nose is going to go, just above where the seam is. And then do the same thing, is poke a hole in it. Take one of the little nose pieces. And I just get these nose and eyes at Hobby Lobby. And you can get them online if you don't have a Hobby Lobby near you. So that's what the face is going to look like. Okay, so the next step is the ears. The ears, just turn them in right side out, I should say, like this. And this one. And I take a tiny bit of stuffing, not a lot. Just a tiny bit of stuffing and stuff the ears. Get this out of the way. So probably just like a little bit like this and stuff it in the ear. Like that. Like that. So the ears, and then you take what you just sewed and you will attach it where the dots are, but I kind of just eyeball it. I've been doing it forever now, so it's just basically over the side seam. Oops. So it's just this side of the side seam, like this. Right there. And you know, it doesn't really matter where they go. You can do it to your preference, but just make sure that they are the same on both sides so that it doesn't look strange when you're finished, like one ear is off to the side more than the other one. As long as you have them even, they're going to look fine. And like I said, it's your preference where you want the ears. Some people put them down lower, some mostly lower than what I do. But I like them right on top of the head. So then I just put a couple pins in these, like this. And then I take it, I baste these on like really close to the edge. Put this stitch allowance maybe at 4. And then just really close to the edge, just to make sure it's on there. So when you go to sew the front to the back, the ears will be already attached. Okay. to 2.5. I usually use 2.5 and a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, let me trim some of these. All right, so the ears now look like this. So now you're going to take the back of the head and sew it to the front of the head. So we already did this. We already trimmed the back of the head. So open it up and see how I lined this, the plaid up, so it looks nice when you put it together. And then I just take the back of the head to the front of the head and place it right between, I don't know if you can see this or not, right between, it's hard to show you, between the two ears. So halfway in between both ears, I put the point of the back. So I throw a pin in that first, and then I start moving over to the side and put a pin in the ear, and then go all the way down to the bottom and line that up and put a pin in it, and then one more pin in the middle of those, and then same thing on the other side, just a pin going down this side. Hope that's in frame. Pin here in the ear, line up the bottom where the neck is, put a pin in there. That's a bigger pin than what I need. Pin here, and then one in the center. Okay, so that is the front pinned to the back. So that's the back, and there is the front where we put our eyes on. So now I just take this to the sewing machine and I stitch around this part right here. Okay, so that's stitched around the whole side, so I'm going to take my pins out. And then I'm going to take the pinking shears again and get rid of that excess. The excess threads and the excess fabric here. Get rid of it all. Be careful not to go through the seam. Sometimes it's really hard to get through this thickness with any kind of scissors. I mean, especially my pinking shears aren't the sharpest. So sometimes when it's too thick, I'll just use my regular scissors. They're sharper. And I can get the excess off of those. Get this taken care of. And then we're going to flip this inside out, or right side out, I should say. And then you'll see what your bear's going to look like. At least the head. And there he is. I like doing the head first. And then I just set it aside while I finish its body. So the next step we already did. So the next step is the body, the front of the body, which is already sewn together. So basically I'm going to set this aside until the legs are done. We trimmed the legs already. Now we are just going to, I kind of do the same thing with the soles, is I fold them in half and find out where the top and bottom is. You can always mark them too. I have that on the pattern piece where you can mark them, the top and the bottom. But I find it just easy for me, if I didn't mark it, just to fold it in half and put a pin in the top and the bottom. And you can kind of tell which side is the top. If you face it towards you, like this, the notch that's lowest is going to be on the left side of the top. It doesn't matter. You can put your marks on it like this and until you get used to it. And then I take the top where I have the pin, and then I put it at the toe of the bear on the seam. So start it right here at the toe, put your pin in, and then turn it around and put it at the heel of the bear where the other pin is, like this. And then just, sometimes, I don't know how it happens, maybe it's just the seam allowance is a little bit more than what it should be. Sometimes you have to do a little trimming to make sure it fits. I find that pretty frequently I have to trim these a little bit to make them fit. So I just go in between the notch and the pin and just take off a little bit of, not a lot. See, there's only a tiny bit. Less is more with this. You can always cut more off. You can never put more back. You'd have to cut a whole new piece. And then you kind of try to match up the notches and pin. That's the side. And then put a pin in between. Some people do this without pinning. I don't know. I feel like I have to pin still. I don't know why. I've done hundreds of these, but I still want to pin, keep everything from slipping. The other notch, and then in between those two, you got one here, and then one here. So that's what the bottom's going to look like. There's the toe, and there's the heel. So now we go around the whole bottom like this, all the way around. Leave no openings at all. And this is going to be kind of the same as like the center of the head. So if you're going around, oops, let me start that again. If you're going around and you find it's bunching, you kind of have to push the fabric up and out of the way. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Throw the needle in and go around the whole thing, pushing the fabric out of the way so it doesn't bunch. Okay, here we go. The toe is probably going to be the hardest. Get that out of the way. I know a lot of you people that are watching are probably wondering why I don't take my pins out, which I should. I've broken plenty of needles by doing, going over my needle or going over my pins, but I do sometimes, but not always. Okay, so that is sewn around the whole thing. So now we take the pins out and then use the pinking shears on this as well. Just trim this off. And this is going to be one of the legs. And then you open up on the back where you left that opening and you flip it right side out. Just like that. So there's your leg and your foot. And I'm going to put this with the body front because we're going to have to sew that to it. But I have one more leg to go, and this is going to be the one with the embroidery on it. And then we're going to fold that in half, just like that. Put your pin in the top. Oh, you know what? I'm going to trim this first because I know it's going to need it. So I'm just going to trim around just a tad. I mean, it's probably, I don't even know, it's not even a 1/16 of an inch that I'm taking off, but I know I can tell it's a little bit bigger than what like the other one was, a little bit bigger than what it needs to be. So there, I just trimmed that off. Put the pins back in where the fold lines were. I can still see them. There and there. And we're going to do the same thing on the leg as we did on the previous one. Put the pin in the toe seam, the top of the, make sure it's facing up on, especially ones that have embroidery on them, so you make sure that they're facing up when you turn them right side out. You wouldn't want it upside down. Same thing, and now the bottom part of it goes towards the heel. And then match up the notches on the side. There's one. Oh my gosh, get that one out of the way. I keep grabbing that pin. And then a notch on this side. Match that one up, put a pin in, and then I always, like I said, I always put a pin in between those, the ones we just put in. So I think I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pins total around the whole thing. It kind of holds it in place so that when you sew, it's not bunching up on you and making a crease. At least I find it to be easier that way. Okay, so there you go. It's all pinned. It's all facing up towards the toe. And then just do the same thing as the last one. If you feel like getting caught up, if you have your pins in stuff, you feel like getting caught up, take your pin out, because otherwise it's just going to sit there and not go forward. Okay, so that one's done as well. Take out the pins. See, it's all sewn together. Take out the pins, use your pinking shears or regular scissors to trim off the excess, as always. Out of this. I'm sorry, I'm not in frame here. Just pinking shears around the whole thing. Same thing, turn it right side out. There you go. So that one's going to say, love Bobby. It's going to be the foot, the other side. Okay, so now I take the front of the body and I'm going to pin the legs. Make sure that the toe is facing towards the body. So right sides together. And there's your center seam. Just pin it like right next to the center, or like maybe an inch away from the center seam or less. And same thing, it's personal preference where you want the legs to be, but just make sure this one's the same as this side. Otherwise they're going to seem very strange looking. And then I just throw 3 pins, kind of like the ears. And then we're going to do the same thing as the ears. We're going to baste really close to the edge to hold it in place so that when you sew the front, see how I space that exact? Or equally, I should say. Pin 3 places, go around it with a baste. Move this up to 4.5 or 4.0, doesn't matter, as long as it's on there, and then go as close. And this is the time you really want to take your pins out because you're so close to the heads of them. All right. All right. So they're sewn on like this. So here's the neck of the bear up here. This is the bottom seam, and then the legs, the toes are pointed towards the neck and towards the body. So in towards the body, facing the neck. Like that. So the bear's gonna look like that. That's the body and the front, the feet. Okay, so next, I think, so we're done with the middle part. So we've got the middle and the top of the bear done. So the two pieces left are, well, there's actually 4 pieces, but they're for the same. You're gonna sew them together. So remember we did the darts on the back of the bear? The other side is where you pin. And this is where I'm gonna have to line up my plaid. So you pin top, you pin at the notch, go down to the next notch. This is where you're going to be stuffing the body. So you need to leave that open. Put another pin there, put another pin at the bottom. And then I'll put one in between just to hold it in place while I sew. So we're going to sew to this, skip this, and then sew down to the bottom. I'll show you when I'm done. Move this back to 2.5. Do a little back stitch in between when you stop. You always do a little back stitch so it doesn't rip out when you go to stuff it. All the way back down to the end, back. Take the pins out. Cut the excess. Sorry, I was out of frame. I just wanted to get that in the garbage. Okay, so this is the back of the bear. So you have your stuffing hole and you have the darts on both sides. This is so that when you set him down, he can sit. So we got that. We're going to set that aside and do our arms. Really, the only thing we have to do to our arms is turn them right side out because we've already sewn them together and cut the excess off. So you just turn them right side out like this. So one arm, stuffing hole on the back. Next one, same thing. Turn it right side out. Like that. And there you go. There's the other one, stuffing hole. Okay, so now, okay, so the next step is we're going to take the front with the legs and the back with the darts that we just finished, and we're going to line up between the legs right here, the bottom, and the very bottom of the back of the bear. These are the 2 darts, and here's the center seam. So we're going to take this and then in between the legs right here and line those 2 seams up like that. And pin, and then kind of pin through where the leg is attached. Go past the dart, and then I go up to the top and line that up next. Put a pin in, and then kind of manipulate it a little bit so that it lays flat. Sometimes it doesn't. You just have to move it around and pin. So I pinned up that side, turn it, pin up this side, kind of through the leg here, then all the way up at the top again. And then in the center somewhere, right here, And a couple more pins here and here. Oops, this one. All right, so now we are going to sew around this whole thing like a horseshoe right here. Same thing, take the pins out and then trim. And I usually clean up. I don't usually do this. I usually do this over the garbage. I don't like to trim over my machine. I don't want to get it dirty, but just for today. And then we're going to flip this right side out through the back. I usually use the back stuffing hole and flip it inside out, or right side out, I should say. Okay, so there we got the front, the legs, and the back with the stuffing hole. So now we're going to attach the arms right here. I do it in between the two side seams. I usually line the arms up in the middle of those. And again, personal preference, but I just do it that way. It makes it much easier for me. And just make sure, again, like I've said the last three things, is you just have to make sure that both sides are, you know, if you're going to do the arm that far away on this side, make sure you do the same thing on that side. Take it, and then I just kind of double check it too. I'll take the seam in the center, fold it, and make sure, like on top, you can see where the two arms are. Make sure they're lined up to each other. Couple pins, and we're going to baste these two. And then our last step is going to be sewing on our head. This is kind of tricky because it's not that big of a hole. So you kind of have to really, I'll show you. Well, I don't know if you can see or not, but I'm going to throw this on baste. Same thing, kind of maybe 4.5. And then just sew these arms on. Just tack them on, and then when we put the head on, it'll catch them. Take these pins out. And if something gets caught, you can't really see. If something gets caught back here, just make sure you push it past the presser foot here. Kind of have to keep pushing it past that presser foot if it gets caught, because it's such a small opening. Okay, almost done with this part. Trim this up a little bit. Pin. All right, so now the arms are attached, and we're going to turn it inside out again. So I used the back stuffing hole, and I put everything through there. And we are going to be attaching the head as the last step. Okay, here's the head. I fold it in half. Nose is here. Here's the neckline, fold it in half, and then in half again, and then I throw it inside the neck. And just make sure when you turn it, when you get it in here, make sure that that nose is facing the center seam. So the nose of the bear, I can feel it, is right there. And you can see the notches on the back too. The notches line up to the back. So I get to the center seam of the back and the front. Put a pin in. Flip it around to the front, line up those two seams, and then I kind of take my hands and stretch it out like that and put a pin in here. So there's going to be 4 pins holding it together while we sew. So 1 pin there, and then same thing on the other side. Pull it apart, put a pin in here, just so it lays flat. Same thing, we're going to sew around this whole side. And I do it, I have the presser foot on the inside of this, and I go around the inside. So I just lay it in the machine like this and twirl like that. So throw it in the machine. Put it back on 2.5. And this is the tricky, where you have to kind of push it past that presser foot on the back, and also keep in mind that you're pushing the fabric out of the way so it doesn't bunch. Keep on twirling. Taking the pin out. Push it past the, it's actually the shank back here that you're pushing it past, not the presser foot, but it's where the presser foot's attached. Keep on turning. Turn. Make sure everything is laying flat so you don't get a crease. Push it out of the way. Back stitch. Trim it up a tad. You don't really have to, but I like to. This is going to be on the inside of the bear, but I still don't like these extra threads hanging. Okay, back. So now we're going to find that stuffing hole in the back again and push everything through there. Like that. And there's your bear. Turned out adorable. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email me, sheery@gmail.com, or you can message me on either Facebook, Shares Bears, or you can always call too. It's 630-277-7719, and I can walk you through anything that you're having issues with. But there you go. Thank you so much for watching.